Hey everyone, I'm William Strife, and welcome to the Heads Up Podcast, episode 10 for October 1st, 2012. So, the first subject that I want to bring up is the fact that over the past week, I've put up 7 videos for Borderlands 2. I've been doing a Let's Play with one of my friends off of YouTube named OrcIdea. Some of you may know him as OrcIdea. If you don't know who he is, go ahead, check the description, hop over to his channel, see what he's up to. He's basically done several guides for the same type of games as myself, which is one of the reasons why I ended up meeting him, and he and I have both received several requests to collaborate on something. So we decided to do a Let's Play of Borderlands 2, and those videos are up on my channel if you have by any chance missed them. But that's what I've been up to for the last week. That was one of the, quote, juggling pins I had in the air that I was talking about in the last podcast. Obviously, I still have Skyrim guides in the works. I'm getting ever so slightly more serious about doing additional weapon guides for Fallout New Vegas. But like I say, I don't know how long it'll take for those to come to fruition. And like always, I have other smaller projects on the side that I'm just kind of tinkering with here and there. But basically, that's what I have been up to, what I am up to, and the fact that I still have other things in the future that I will be working on. And that's really more or less your status update. So without further ado, let's get straight to the questions that all of you ended up leveling at me whenever I put up the last podcast. Oh, but before I forget, just to remind everyone, if you have a question that you want to ask, go ahead, drop down to the comments, ask the question. I prefer that they are video game related questions because that's my area of expertise. And also, for those of you who see questions that you like and want answered, you should, upvote it, give it a thumb, because that way it raises the visibility of the question, and the more thumbs a question gets, the more likely I am to answer it. It's a whole lot better than, say, asking the same question over and over. So yeah, with that covered, here's the first question. This is from Rumpelstiltskin. Great folktale, that one. His question is, what do you think of Black Mesa? Well, I suppose I should bring several other people up to speed on what Black Mesa is. Judging by the thumb count that it got, though, I suspect that several people know what Black Mesa already is. But for those of you who don't know, Black Mesa is a fan-made remake of the original Half-Life. Now, if I'm not mistaken, the original Half-Life was released in 1995, 1996. I don't really remember that well when it was put out, but Half-Life was a very important first-person shooter that was pivotal to a lot of changes and improvements that the first-person shooter genre saw over the ages. It was created by a company named Valve. It's the same people who created the Steam platform for digital distribution of games on the PC. And it was a very, very influential game. It was very forward-thinking. It was very innovative for its time. And for those reasons, it made a pretty big splash whenever it came out. Now, if you haven't played the first Half-Life, my suggestion would be to, get on YouTube and search for some sort of a Let's Play video of the original Half-Life, not Black Mesa, the remake. Search for the actual original, because it'll give you an idea of just how old the game is. Now, with all of that said, I did play the original Half-Life. Granted, I played it years after it came out. I think 2002, maybe it was 2003 whenever I first played it. It was quite a ways down the line, not that far away from the release of Half-Life 2. That being said, I am not what you would call a very big Half-Life fan. I respect the series, I love it and everything. So to get more to the point of the question, what do I think of Black Mesa? I think that it's a very good, very loyal reproduction of the original game. It makes, important improvements over the original. It tries to create some continuity with the story, putting the characters Iggy and Eli in there, the scientists. But it doesn't change something that's very, very important. Whenever I played the first Half-Life, while it did blow me away, I didn't have fun playing it. I didn't have fun playing through it at all, because, I don't know, just the way that it controlled, the way it felt, didn't really give me any form of satisfaction. I recognize the game for how I mean, it really did blow me away, the original, and the level of detail and just the way that the game world felt, but the actual gameplay of the original, I didn't like. And because Black Mesa is such an honest reproduction of the original, I just don't enjoy it, because it doesn't feel fun to me, because I didn't enjoy the original, and they literally duplicated the original game and how it felt, which, that's not going to port forward well. And moreover, the original Half-Life, it's a severely dated game at this point. There are a lot of things that have been updated to the first-person shooter genre over the years, and the result of so faithfully reproducing that is, you can clearly see the age in how the game mechanics function. For that reason, as I was playing through Black Mesa, granted I didn't get through the whole thing because there was only so much I could take of it, because I really was not enjoying myself while I played through it. But for those reasons, on a gameplay level, I hate the game. I absolutely despise it, which really comes off as odd to me because I love Half-Life 2. I think it's one of the best games out there. It made my top 10 list, which I put in a podcast a while back. But the first Half-Life, absolutely no appeal to me. And for that reason, the remake, I just don't have fun with it, even though I give it high marks for the fact that it plays well. It feels exactly how it should in relation to the old game. Technically, across the board, Black Mesa is a great game. As far as gameplay, and when you compare it to modern games, though, it's quite clear that it's aged, and it simply doesn't hold up, at least in my eyes. Okay, the next question is from Sexy Blue Tiger, and this didn't actually get any upvotes. I just found it an interesting query, and for that reason I've decided to answer it. My question to you is, what do you think of Hideo Kojima's repeated retirements and revival of the Metal Gear Solid series through repeated sequels and prequels when he continually says he is finished? Alright, now my answer to this is not going to have a whole lot of cement information in it, nothing really solid, because as far as the Metal Gear Solid series goes, I'm a fan of it, I love it, I play all the games, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm really, I've got my ear to the ground about, and it's not something that I'm following very closely. But the way that I feel about the fact that Kojima has tried to retire and then he keeps coming back, I think that's kind of like a double-edged blade. The thing about Kojima, I think, is he wants to stop making Metal Gear, but at the same time, he doesn't want to stop working on games yet. That's just the feeling that I get from him. And as for the possible reason for why he keeps working on the Metal Gear series, is because I don't think Konami is willing to let that series just, go away or die or gracefully end. Most companies nowadays, whether it be in the television, film, or video game industry, they don't want a big series that has, a lot of buzz around it and has a loyal fan base to just kind of fade away. They'd rather keep milking it until they can't get any money out of it. And because that's something that companies are so prone to doing, I get this feeling that Konami doesn't want Metal Gear to end because they can still make money off of it. And whether Kojima is there or not, Konami owns the rights to the series, and they would continue to make Metal Gear games whether or not Kojima was there to, call the shots. So the way that I look at it, I have a feeling that it's a situation of they're going to keep making it whether he's there or not, and because Kojima doesn't want other people getting their hands into his universe and the characters that he's built up, he has come back, possibly reluctantly come back, to continue to make Metal Gear after Metal Gear, because if he doesn't come back and do it, it's going to happen anyway, and someone else is going to come along and potentially completely mess up what he's, spent a significant amount of his life building. But that's just how I feel. There's that's just my gut feeling on the matter. I don't have any, proof that that is the case. I could be completely wrong. There could be an entirely different reason for why he continues to go back to the series. But you did ask me what I think, and that's what I think. Unfortunately, I don't know many details in regards to why he keeps going back to the Metal Gear series and why he hasn't actually retired. Okay, this is not actually a question. It's just a bit of a shout out that I want to make to the user Joel the Hero. Joel commented on retro games in modern day. I'm not going to read his comment out because what he said in full is not entirely relevant, but he wanted to know my opinion about retro games in modern day, or modern games with retro designs and appeals. And I just want to say to you, Joel, I made a video in my Elements of Play series not too long ago, just this year, about retro appeal. I've linked to the video in the description. Go on, scroll down, click it, watch it, check it out, because that really does define the way that I see retro design in modern day. And I really think, based on what you said in your comments on the previous podcast, that you'll really like that in particular episode that I created. Okay, moving right along. This is turning out to be a unusual podcast. For this one, it's not so much one question as it is a basic thread of a discussion that ended up breaking out. It's not very long, but the initial question came from Uki Warboy, who asked, in your opinion, do you believe that Skyrim is causing the end of RPG games? Now, this is a fine question, and I would have been okay to answer it on my own. But I think that the input that two other users put in, plus Warboy's response, is worth bringing up as well. And the first person to respond was Lamb of Satan 225. Great name. Oh, great name there, guy. Who said, wait, why do you believe Skyrim is causing the end of RPGs? And then KG Broad also said, I wouldn't say that it's Skyrim's fault. I think it's more of gamers' fault. A lot of gamers prefer playing shooters and sports games instead of RPGs. And then Uki Warboy came back with a response that basically says shooters and sports games are dominating the market, and RPGs, which are a much more core type of game, are being toyed around with by idiots, and common players do really, really dumb stuff and make YouTube videos out of it. So, okay, my response to all of this is, no, Skyrim is not causing an end to RPG games. And moreover, stop saying that games are ruining the games industry. It makes no sense whatsoever. Just because a video game is not as hardcore or it's more casual does not mean that it is ruining anything. If anything, the video games industry is flourishing as a result of all of those games that you call too mainstream or too casual. Games like Angry Birds or the Call of Duty series or all of those sports games that come out every single year, they're putting money into the video game industry. And the result of having more money in the industry is that it's much more reasonable to grant larger sums of money to developers to create good games. In the case of Skyrim, it's not ruining anything. It's just simplified. Now, the argument that I think that you're jumping to here is that the game is simplified to be more popular, and therefore it's representing what RPGs are supposed to be now. And because it has worked out and the game has been a large financial success, the next game in the series is going to follow the same suit and just compound the issue, being even more simple in order to be increasingly popular. In other words, the idea that the more popular something gets, the more dumber it has to be. And while that is true to a certain extent, it also means that the opposite is not true. Making a game increasingly complex or regressing and going back to old types of gameplay styles or old game rules does not mean that it's going to make the game better. Making an RPG more complicated by putting even more numbers that you can crunch into it with more complexity does not necessarily make it better. Yes, it makes it more intricate, but that's not for everyone. And moreover, any artist, whether they create music or a film or a movie or a game, no one creates a project thinking in their mind, I only want this to go out to these types of people. No one thinks that. Everybody wants their work to become as big and successful as it can be, reaching as many people as possible. So to say that a game like Skyrim is ruining RPGs, presumably because of how popular it is as a result of being more simple, is very very pessimistic. It's counterintuitive. It's saying, let's stop being progressive with our games. Let's stop making things more simple in certain areas and more intuitive just because we want to stick with what we already know. Innovation is key to games being fun every single time around. And in the case of The Elder Scrolls, Bethesda and Todd Howard, the game director for several installments now, has made a direct statement that they're basically remaking the same game over and over, just in a different area. And what they have to do is try and reinvent that game every single time. And that's what they are doing. And in the process, they are attempting to make it more streamlined. And despite that fact, there are still tons and tons of gamers, especially the type of gamers that you refer to as idiots who kill random people and make a video about it on YouTube. Yes, I understand why you don't like those people, but the fact of the matter is that it's a game, and those people are entitled to have fun in a free roam game however they want to, alright? Even if Skyrim was as complicated as the previous game, Oblivion, people still would have done really stupid things. One of the things that I saw people constantly doing as a stupid trick in Oblivion was exploiting the item duplication glitch. People are always going to do stupid things, and thinking that any game is ruining a genre or the industry for that matter just because it's popular and stupid people are going to do stupid things with it, it doesn't mean that it's ruining anything. But I'm ranting a little bit. The point is, games cannot hurt the games industry, alright? Video games can hurt the image of the video game industry, but just because a game is popular, even if it does turn out to be a sellout title, it does not mean that it is harming anything. It does not mean that it is degrading something. Granted, it might not be contributing as much as it possibly can to the industry. Such would be the case with Call of Duty, and in many cases, sports games do the same thing. Those types of games are put out to make money, and not put out to drive some sort of an artistic expression. So the short of the answer, no, Skyrim is not ruining RPGs, and moreover, stop saying that games of any type are ruining video games. Because without those games that just come out every year for the purpose of making money and they're not really that great, they don't do anything different, they're not innovative, without those games generating revenue and bringing it into the video game market, companies would be unable to push enough money towards those big AAA titles that push the boundaries and change the way we view video games. The innovative games that change the way we look at video games are built on the back of the money made out of the smaller games that don't challenge anything and just play the game safe and, in some cases, are completely selling out cash-in. Okay, we're closing in on the end now, so the last thing that I want to bring up is during the last podcast, I brought up the fact that there are some people who are interested in me showing my face, and I got a lot of feedback. Many of you had statements about whether or not I should show my face, and predominantly I'd say 2/3 to 3/4 of the people that had anything to say told me not to show my face. If I didn't want to show it, don't show it. But there was one particular comment that I found kind of humorous that came across, and it got quite a few upvotes too. It was from Jeff Yuan, who said, "William Strife is just a blob with a great voice." Alright, so because I had overwhelming support not to show my face, I've decided not to. I might as well just, say that straight out. I'm not going to show my face explicitly or in any extent of the matter. If you really do want to know how I look, you can take a glance at some of the images I use for my avatar on YouTube. Just go on, hop over to my channel, and you can see the image. But beyond that, I figure that it's not entirely fair to the people who wanted to see me, so I'm going to have a bit of a consolation prize, or a compromise. It doesn't really matter what you call it. So I have a photo that most of you will probably want to see. I'll show it on the screen in a minute. Now, the photo was taken whenever I was helping a friend out with a photo shoot, a 1950s photo shoot to be very specific. And even though I was only helping out, I wasn't the person who was supposed to be in front of the camera. Just before we were about to leave the last place that we took pictures at, I was strapped with all of the gear and props that we were using. And my friend told me to get on the train tracks nearby, and he snapped a handful of photos. And this was the only one that actually came out well. Go ahead, tell me what you think of it. I think it's fairly appropriate considering what I've done. If you want a larger copy of the image, you can check the video description. I have a link out to it there. But yeah, there's the compromise or consolation prize of an idea of what I look like, even though it's not my face. So I look forward to what all of you have to say about it. Okay, that's it for this week's podcast. Thanks for coming around to listen. And don't forget to ask questions about anything that you want answered. If there's a subject that you want me to break down that I can potentially explain, just keep in mind, try to make your questions video game related. And if you see someone else ask a question that you want answered, go ahead, upvote that question. The more thumbs a question gets, the more visibility it has, and the more likely I am to answer it. But until next time, I'm William Strife, and this has been the Heads Up Podcast for October 1st, 2012. See you later.